So I'm also not sure I've picked the right term. But
It's the same.
You can change it.
Exactly.
It's the concept of the glossary.
So I might decide to change it by the end of this 2 days. Okay. So I was thinking about construction because it happened that by the mid-October 2015, there was many institutions just like opening in Beirut, and at least like 2 of them were private foundations, and the rest were museums. So it's something, I mean, maybe it's something that could have been predicted, that this will come, like this whole sort of like museum frenzy will happen at some point. But I didn't think that they will all open at the same time. So this was like quite, a surprise. So perhaps to address the question of constituencies, we should be first addressing the current impasse of liberal democracy and its intricate relation to the neoliberal project. So in some parts of the world, the collapse of the system can already predict a certain future of the nation-state model in its current form. In places where the infrastructural support of the state has collapsed, or where different forms of state institutions are purposefully left to fall apart in order to be privatized, perhaps there we can perceive or clearly perceive a kind of a dark future of liberal democracy. So on October 26, 2015, there was the first strong rain of the season in Beirut that many people were apprehending because of the garbage crisis. So perhaps you've heard about the garbage crisis. It was all over the news. So the garbage crisis has led to an accumulation of garbage and waste in different places in the city because they didn't know how to get rid of the garbage. So I'll explain briefly what was the garbage crisis about in case some of you don't know. There was an accumulation of waste in different green spots or by the seashore or any empty lots around different cities in Lebanon. So the garbage crisis has been going on for the past 9 months. I'm not sure we can still call it a crisis. It's some kind of an ongoing temporary situation we're living in. And just to briefly give a context to what had happened starting from June 2015. So the contract of the private company that was in charge of collecting the garbage had ended after many, many years of renewals and many failures to accomplish the tasks they were legally due to accomplish, such as recycling 80% of the waste, whereas they had only recycled 8%, for example. And instead they used dumps that appeared later to be like non-sanitary or not conforming to certain health or hygiene norms. And of course these dumps were in the most dense and deprived, next to the most dense and deprived residential areas in cities. or next to small towns or villages. So the garbage crisis started with the closing of one of the main dumps in the country, because one of the main politicians, realized that he was not getting a big enough piece of the cake, like enough money or he was not getting what he deserved from, from the garbage, actually, because we realized after this that you actually make a lot of money from garbage. So I didn't know that. So, and protests erupted all through the summer. So on the day of the first rain of the season, so this was October 2015, garbage flooded the streets. So you can see it here in the picture. So some streets were flooded, and garbage was just like circulating in this river, in the street. So it was a little bit of an apocalyptic image. And on that same day, a Lebanese collector was inaugurating his first private contemporary art foundation in Beirut, in a huge mall designed by David Adjaye. And it hosts the private foundation, and also hosts a lot of different other shops, like luxury or high-end brands, or luxury brands such as Gucci and Furla and all of that. So the foundation is located on a major highway by the seaside that links Beirut to the north, to the northern part of the country. And 2 days prior to the opening, the Minister of Interior circulated an official announcement about a temporary closing of one part of the highway in order to facilitate the circulation of the people who are coming to attend the inauguration of, this foundation. So this was the same Minister of Interior who had been trying throughout the whole summer to shut down the protests that erupted because of the garbage crisis and other corruption issues, and they were demanding the government to step down. So here, this is the huge private foundation that, cost millions. And this is a bunch of ministers posing on that day when there was like the garbage flood, posing with this collector, and I think his wife, and they're all ministers. And this one is the Minister of Interior who was trying to shut down the...
What kind of collection is it?
It's a, this guy started... Basically, it's a bit of a garbage collection. This guy started collecting, I think, like 10 years ago, and he was collecting all kinds of stuff. I don't know, like just all kinds of stuff. And then he was also a dealer, so he was also like buying things and selling them back at higher prices and making some money from it. But at some point he thought, oh, now I would like to be like a serious collector, have a foundation, and like he understood that he could do that. And so he now he's advised by major curators, actually. So he has like a lot of arte povera, he has a lot of different he has like many advisors around him. So since I think 3 years, he shifted into wanting to become like a serious collector.
And who is he on the picture? The guy in the blue suit, with the blue shirt?
Yeah, he's this guy here.
Yeah.
So he basically made his money by selling surplus high-end, like, I don't know, I think that some retail companies or high-end brands such as Gucci, or they make a specific number that they are allowed to sell in Europe. And within the fashion mafia, there is more surplus production that is made and that is exported outside. And he's one of the guys who was working in this, and he made his money doing that. I think there's also some arm trafficking involved.
You can diverse.
Yes, exactly. Gucci now.
Could you tell us which curators are advising?
That's a good question.
No, it's
If you turn off the
yes.
no, yeah, I think one of the curators is Massimiliano Gioni. I don't know the others. Okay. So his name is Tony Salame, if you want to look him up.
Really?
Yeah.
That is.
That's like a cartoon character.
Yes. Spanish is like.
And his foundation is
Salame.
It's a ham.
Go back to serious listening. Come on.
yeah.
Spanish is a
No,
word
we
for corrupted.
But yeah, of course it's serious. And his foundation's name is Aishti Foundation. Okay. So what was I saying? Yeah.
The
So
same
this is-
day,
I was talking about the photo. Yeah. So the Minister of Interior is so this is the same Minister of Interior was trying to shut down the protests all through the summer here. He just facilitated by shutting the road or closing the road for the inauguration of this foundation. He just facilitated the people's circulation, the people who were coming to this foundation. He's just like, he's at the service of this guy. So here we are with an ecological catastrophe on the one hand, and the super luxurious foundation on the other. And the Minister of Interior, of course, turning his back to the garbage and trying to repress the protests. And here he is as well, with trying to look at some art. So,
By a very famous artist. Whom we're not going to name.
no.
Because they
On
can't
that
hear.
same weekend, the collector had also pressured the only public museum in Beirut, which had just reopened, to host a big dinner. This is the Sursok Museum, to host a big dinner in their garden after the director of this museum had radically said no. So he called up the mayor of Beirut, who in his turn phoned the director and pressured her to host the dinner. So this public museum gets most of its funding from the municipality of Beirut, and the municipality funds it by selling construction permits that are very costly, and funded also the reconstruction of the museum that took more than 10 years and a lot of money. It cost a lot of money. And of course the municipality of Beirut is a very, very rich municipality because it's a business basically. They sell a lot of construction permits, they allow a lot of things, they get bribes, So they're really very rich. They could resolve any garbage problem if they really wanted. So the system of self-governance and each municipality really governing its own sector or its own city, then this is very doable. But of course they're worried about other things. So now we have a Minister of Interior that is turning his back to the garbage, posing with the collector, that is pressuring politicians who are at his service to host a dinner in the public museum. and using the police and military to block the highway in order for his invitees to be comfortable at the opening. And the protest that is being shut down by the same state apparatus that is inexistent when it comes to solving the garbage matter, but suddenly appears in forms when it needs to repress the protests and protect, of course, their corporations and deals. So we also have a public museum that is funded by construction permits that the municipality is selling for huge amounts of money. We have a city in a state of an ecological catastrophe and the most polluted privatized seashore in the whole of the Mediterranean. So this is some of the garbage that is accumulated by the seashore. So if you go swimming in the Mediterranean, just think twice. And this is the seashore that is has been privatized since the 90s. So the 90s were like the moment of development, reconstruction, and privatization. Okay. Here's also a call for application or a call for proposal for another museum that's supposed to be they're supposed to start the construction in 2017. So this is like a third museum in the making. So if we rewind just like a decade earlier to try and look at this intertwinement of real estate ecologies, state and construction laws for that matter, the 90s or post-89, or in the case of Lebanon, the post-Civil War, we see that it has been a decade of political repression in the sense that a hegemonic humanitarian discourse took over and marginalized any attempt at rethinking leftist discourses and politics. And contemporary art and contemporary artists back then in the 90s, or contemporary art, created some kind of an emancipatory space. So I wonder where this emancipatory space is today. At the same time, the reconstruction of the city, so as I said, in the 90s had started, and this has like started this whole a process of reconstruction. So this is another museum. It's called the Museum of Beirut, or the Memory of Beirut, and it will also open, I think, by the end of 2016. So Solidaire, or the company who rebuilt Beirut, for those who do not know, it's a private company that was owned by the prime minister at that time, and properties were turned into shares. So all people that owned properties in the downtown their properties were replaced by shares. So they were compensated by shares in the company. And it just like put its hand on all the downtown and rebuilt it in it looks like a mall basically. So the reconstructed downtown is not very far from a luxurious mall and not very far from high-end luxury brands of Tony Salem's foundation. So it caters upper classes and pushed the rest out. They didn't even have a proposal or thought of, for example, proposing a social housing project, although they had the means. And the last attempt at building any social housing in Beirut was in 1958, when Doxiadis proposed a plan, but it was never executed. So 1958, I guess, was like a post-independence period where perhaps there were still trying to build some kind of a state, or there was some kind of at least an attempt to build a state. Okay, so it seems that all of those contemporary art institutions are emerging out of the garbage itself, or out of the same sets of politics, economies, and finances that this garbage has produced. Not to mention that the family owning the biggest shares in this private garbage company named Suklin are very prominent collectors as well. So it all seems like a fast forward into the future of a capitalist catastrophe and the future of a neoliberal city that is collapsing into its own self. Okay, now I will talk about 98 weeks, and then maybe we can, I don't know, like talk more or discuss more in the discussion later. Or so I have these two things to present. I think they're somehow linked together, and we can maybe like you know, I can develop on this more in the discussion. So so 98 weeks. So 98 weeks, very briefly, is a project, space and research project that I have co-founded with curator and writer Miran Arsanios, who is also my cousin. And we started thinking about it as a way to think about knowledge production outside of academia and in a more like an artist organization. And also to set a format on of collective research and collective knowledge production. So the idea was to give time for a research topic. So every 2 years we would choose collectively with other people a research topic, and then give it at least like 2 years to research through practice, so through workshops, through seminars, talks, reading groups. So these are some images of, for example, we worked on the urban space of the city of Beirut, and we also led many workshops in different neighborhoods, etc. So this was one of the research topics that we followed on for 2 years. And then we had a project space, so we took over a space in the city. And these are just like some images. We then, the second research topic was on publications, and we were looking at different historical publications, mostly poetry, and the way they had influenced modernization of language in Arabic. So this was like the second research topic. And then we started the third 98 weeks, and it was, the research topic was feminisms. And this is when we started producing this magazine called Maxim, that is also an online magazine, and the radio project. So this is like reading groups happening live on radio. There's like also some live audiences. This is another radio. And the feminisms reading group that have been going on for 3 years now. So the last project was the Feminisms Forum, where we were thinking about the questions of labor and underpaid and unpaid work within within like art institutions, the way they link to a certain history of unpaid work in domestic spaces. So we also like read Silvia Federici and yeah, so we're working more now within this feminism project more with lawyer, philosophers, yeah, journalists and artists, activists as well. So yeah, I guess like I gave you an idea of also like the context of the context of Beirut, the way all of these institutions are, you know, popping up, how this is related to real estate and bigger sort of like, yeah, I don't know, economical issues, and what we are trying to do with 98 weeks, which is actually like more of a, let's say, a peer-to-peer learning space. So